Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back to talk about the importance of soundtracks. Now, soundtracks, it's not just confined to hip hop, but whether it be R&B, country, pop, uh, folk music, whatever you want to name, important. The soundtracks are very important, not just for the labels or for the soundtrack, but for the artists as well. Now, I'll break down how some of these soundtracks have helped reinvigorate or help bring to light some of these artists that we love today, no one loved today, and how and the effects of how it can catapult you to the next level. Now, soundtracks are usually tied to a movie or a TV show or some kind of, work that's going on in like Hollywood or, just some piece of work that's tied to a movie mostly. But the viewer has a unique perspective of being tied to the song, not just for the movie, but just being tied to the artist as well. Because the artist, when you think about the song, you think about the movie and you think about the artist ultimately that sung it. Like one of my early examples was Maxwell's This Woman Work, which got me introduced into his music from the Love and Basketball soundtrack. Now, the song wasn't on the soundtrack, but it was on the movie, which every time I hear the song now, I tie it back to the movie in that scene. It's just programming, or it's just the way our brains are wired. I think sometimes just to associate things. I do a lot of word associations when I see names or I see certain things, and the soundtracks definitely do that. It put in your mind um, association type things. So like a lot of soundtracks, and I bet you can think of a lot of soundtracks that you can be tied to mentally that you're able to do like that. But the soundtracks in the past used to be they used to break artists through them. So like if a new artist came out, it's like, hey, we'll put you on this soundtrack. We got this movie coming out. We're gonna throw you on this soundtrack, and that'll introduce you to the world. Because if you're the featured artist, which they probably wouldn't make you a featured artist on a movie if you're a new artist, unless it's some kind of hit song, and I'll talk about one of those in a little bit. But they'll definitely put you as one of the songs that make it into the movie. That's a good part of the movie, so people can have that emotional connection to your music and ultimately to you, and it'll help you grow your brand. And that's one of the best promotions that they can give you, or free promotions that they can give you, is by throwing you in that movie and a scene in your music, and people are like, "What is that song?" Queen of Slim, there's a song on there, "Been Through It All," and the artist, like, uniquely, his song wasn't on the soundtrack, but it was in the movie, and I ended up listening to the song probably 10 to 12 times because it's a great song. I think the guy's name is Wintertime, but it's called "Been Through It All." Very great song. It fit the scene in the movie very well, and I'm a big fan of soundtracks, as you can tell. The Twister soundtrack is my favorite soundtrack over the past couple of years, probably the last decade. And I wasn't even a country music fan, but I did love that soundtrack, and I was able to like relate to that music and expand my horizons to country music a little bit more. So that movie did that for me, as I'm a fan of Tornadoes and Twisters as well. But um, just give you a couple of examples of how these movies help shape these artists. One of the first ones I had was Tony Braxton's "Love Should Have Brought You Home." This song was on the Boomerang soundtrack, and I remember reading L.A. Reid's autobiography that he wrote about the music industry and his experience in the industry, and he talked about how they used that Tony Braxton's intro into the world musically through that soundtrack, and it was a hit song on the album. It fit what the narrative of the album, of the movie was, and she became a big star after that and had a very successful music career. Now that was genius for them to do because, like I talked about, it's free promotion. It's a exciting way to promote an artist and to promote their music through a movie that everyone's gonna watch, and tied to celebrity like Eddie Murphy, a big time comedian and actor, and Halle Berry and Chris Rock early in his younger years were in it. John Witherspoon, David Allen Greer. So it had a lot of backing from a lot of people, especially in the urban community. And for your music or your song to break during that movie, free promotion, everybody wins, right? One of the artists who didn't break out on a soundtrack, but he was able to move to that next level was Eminem's "Lose Yourself" on the 8 Mile soundtrack. Now, Eminem was already an established artist, very successful, but he didn't cross over like that until that 8 Mile "Lose Yourself" song came out. Now it's played at all the Detroit Lions games. Different cultures play that music to get motivated for sports or anything else that might be doing that requires getting a boost of energy. That song does that for you. It has quotable lines in there about the Mom Spaghetti, which is one of his companies now. He did a lot of venturing off from that song, and he became very successful. And like I said, it pushed him to the next echelon. He was already successful, but it put him in that stratosphere that he had never been before, boosted him up a next level to the top level. Charlie Puth, "When I See You Again" on the Furious 7 soundtrack, which is an emotional song, but it sent him to the moon. It has close to 7 billion views on YouTube right now, that song itself. Shows you how successful it was, but it had emotional ties to it because Paul Walker had died between the 6th one and the 7th one, and that song was a tribute to him, so to speak, and it gets very emotional. I remember Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth performing that song at the Staples Center, and they were teared up. Wiz Khalifa got emotional. Charlie Puth got emotional. You can see several fans with tears. Just an emotional song, but it pushed them to the next level because it has so many emotional ties to it. And that's what music does. It's supposed to do, is giving pulling your emotion strings and give you an emotion, whether it be good, bad, indifferent. It's supposed to do something for you. And that Charlie Puth song with the death surrounding that movie definitely did that for everybody, and it's still one of the biggest songs today. And then lastly, The Weeknd's Earned It song on the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack, which Weeknd was another artist that was already out, established. He had the House of Balloons album, and he had other works already out, but this pushed him to the next stratosphere, being tied to a successful book that had multiple series or multiple installments in it, and him being tied to that movie. And it was a great song, and I became a Weeknd fan after this song. It was, his greatest work, and he also came out with other songs and great albums after that as well. Performed at the Super Bowl, so it did a lot of things for him that earned it. Song from that 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack, but it just shows you the importance and the greatness that a soundtrack can give you. And the point of the story is, if you want to break as an artist, tie yourself to a soundtrack. And until next time, I'll see you next time.